Good morning, friends, and welcome back to the Up North house. Thanks for joining us for another update in the dining room and kitchen. This week we'll be working mainly in these rooms again. It's taken a little while for all of my patches to dry. You can see this is the drywall portion. There's joint compound here and all the sections that needed to be patched. The other walls are plaster, and I did that plaster of Paris, which I showed a couple of weeks ago on the video. And I've gone through a few times trying to find all the sections. I think I found most of them that I wanted to patch. You can see the areas that are bright white, like here and all along the bottom. These are areas that have dried that I've patched, and it is now time for me to go in and begin light sanding so that I can work on priming for paint. And there are a few sections that were larger that have not quite finished yet. Like this one, I still have to build in some more. There's another one way up there in the corner that is not quite ready. It's gray in color, you can see. So that one will require a little more attention before we get to the priming stage or sanding stage even. Over here, you can see that we have one larger section in the corner, but mostly the areas are ready for sanding and priming. So I'm gonna be working on that today. We'll be doing other things as well as usual as we wait for things to cure and dry and set up and all of those things. And we'll see what comes next. But first, inside the kitchen. All right, here is post dust storm. Got a little dusty. Most of the walls look so great. I went over with the sander with a fine grit, just a soft, I think it was 120. So pretty fine grit, and got the big marks off the wall. And then any patches that were loose and hadn't come loose yet did get vibrated loose. So now I have what I need to go back and refill. Little patches. Some of them are around my patch that I previously did. Down here, I had patched all of this section in, and then this patch was fine. Apparently it wasn't, so that rattled out, so I can go ahead and patch that. So that's a good thing about doing that sander that way. It rattled loose anything that needed to come loose before we do anything further. So you can see, again, here's my patch. That's a section I did not patch. It wanted in on the party and fun. So we're gonna do that over here, same thing. It also went ahead and exposed any edges around my patches that I need to go back and fill. And then here's one of those brand new holes that came out just from vibrating the wall. So this is great, it's looking wonderful. I'll go back in and do the second coat of patches. I gotta go wipe off my ghost dust here. It was dusty. That's what it is. That's why you mask up and wear some glasses. So looking good for what we're wanting in here, and I will show you what comes next. Right, I am back ready to do my second patch. This is my plaster of Paris mixture. It's starting to set up at the appropriate thing. You can see it's kind of like, you know, thick pudding. So this stuff does begin to set up quickly. So I always work in small batches. I think I started this with a large bucket. That just became too cumbersome. So I'm gonna take my material with the small, like 1.5 inch deal, and deliver it to the hole that I have, trying to get it into the wall area behind. Oh, and I did spray this. I forgot to show that part. I sprayed the wall ahead of time with water so that it would kind of receive the plaster a little better, hopefully. So this is that section that I showed earlier was just a little bit wonky. Came out next to the patch I had already done. So I'm gonna put that on there and go back with my 4-inch paddle and just smooth over it. Oops, Got a little bit of that dry out of there. The idea is here, it's hard for me not to overwork it, which I'm approaching at this moment. So that's the patch is there, and I've got a little bit left on my spatula here. So I'm gonna go in at that point and put it into shallower areas that need filling. So you can see that. So I'm gonna keep doing that, and then this time, when this gets to a point that it's workable, like probably leather hard, I'm gonna do something different than I did the last time, because this time I don't wanna bring a sander back out. It's gonna be more of a fine sander, so I have this magic eraser, which is, if you know about these, they're a little bit abrasive. It's a soft sponge, but you wet it, and it is essentially a little abrasive, almost like a sander, and then I would sand over that to smooth any marks that I had. Of course, now it's a little too wet to do that with. I'm gonna wait until that hole gets a little bit, not quite dry. It'll still be gray, but I'll go back over that with this. And then the next time all this is dry, I will be ready to go ahead and start priming. Okay, here is a section I just patched, and you can kind of see, hopefully above my finger, there are some spatula marks, right, that I just left in there. So I'm going to, and it's still gray, so it's leather hard. I'm gonna spray it all back down one more time, just like that, with my spray bottle, and then come in with my magic eraser and just try to knock against those spatula marks. And hopefully that will take it down enough so that it's not like obviously spatula marks. This wall is definitely not perfect. Again, that's not what we're going for here. Just want it to be no obvious gouges. And specifically over here, this is that area where there was a shelf pre-existing that we had to remove because our stove is gonna go here. And I didn't want there to be this outline, which you can still sort of see because of the color change, but there was actually a hard groove, a divot in the wall, and so I wanted to try to get away from that, and that's what we're done. So you can see here, there's still some spatula marks, obviously, but if I work that a little more, it's coming off, and I can go back and spray it again and just make it a little smoother. That way I don't come in the next time with the sander and vibrate everything one more time. So we're gonna leave that. That is all for now. I'm going to finish the last few little patches and sand them while they are still moist and allow them to set up. It's very humid here, so it may take a day. So while this is setting up, John and I are starting the next project, which I will show you in a few minutes. There's John. Hey, John. Hey. So John's out here working on a beam. He's standing on two true 2x6s. These are old rough cut lumber that we found here. Some of it under the porch. You can see they're very nice and thick. That's 2 knuckles. And this is a modern 2x6 over here. That is a 1.5 knuckles. So we're gonna be using, or John is making a beam with this modern one between the 2 rough cut ones. He's making an 8-foot long beam because we are going to need to shore up the floor under the kitchen in the area where our big wood cook stove is going. So I'll show you that area. Again, this is where I was just working on plaster, still gray. And the wood cook stove is coming in right here, and it's very heavy. I think it's about 700 pounds. So we need to make sure that our floor is sturdy enough. As you know, we have a foundation issue that is in process. We think now that the ground has finally unthawed enough, according to our local experts, to go ahead and be able to start excavating and doing the dig down here. So we've been able to get out all the debris now, the table, all the things that we needed to do to expose the entire wall on that side. That is the north side of the property. And you've seen this in another video. I won't go into more details. If you want to check it out, there's a whole video all about that. Today's project is going to be using these two piers that we talked about in the last video. This is the area directly under the kitchen where we just were. And at this point, we're going to be putting two of these jack posts up right here under the beam that John is making. And that beam is going to run crossways with these floor joists. These floor joists are 24 inches apart, which was standard at the time this section of the house was built. This is the oldest section of the house. The newer section, finished by 1860, was actually in the front, the two-story section. And that is much sturdier. They're like 12 inches apart, which I've never seen any that close. Thank goodness they went overkill. But this one is saggy. And we want to make sure that even beyond the foundation fixes, that we make this sturdy enough to support that 700-pound stove. So we're told if we do the beam the way we're going to do it, that is the way it can be done, and it's the best option. So that's what we're going to do. You'll see us doing that shortly. And we're using the 4'8" to 8'4" jack posts. I keep loving to call them jack studs. It's not a jack stud, but this is the extendal post, adjustable support post. They hold like 10,000 pounds each. And that's what we have here throughout the basement, supporting the basement away from the foundation issue. I'll show you another section as an example that we just did. If you remember the basement tour again, we found an old jack post that was standing in this position right here, but it was completely loose and wobbly, and the concrete floor below had sunk and busted with the weight of it, and it was supporting this little beam, not so little beam, that runs the entirety of the new section of the house east to west up here. There, for some reason, is no joinery between this and that, so that's got to be corrected at some point. For now, this is a brand new jack post with an 18-inch round to distribute the weight at the bottom, so it's not a pencil like poking in through the concrete. And that is much more sturdy. And as things adjust, when the foundation is fixed, we can adjust this beam as needed. There will be more of these posts throughout this entire section, but we still have to do some removal of these things before we get to that point. So this is basically what we'll be creating in the other section, and you'll see that in a few minutes. John is working on that beam, and then we're going to be putting it down here to make our kitchen ready, because I'm so excited about that wood cook stove. We're going to have so many great pizzas and fresh wood-fired bread and all the things. I'm so excited about that. So we got to get this ready, because it could come any day, as we're told. So we'll be working on that, and we'll catch you back down here in just a few minutes. Okay, small diversion before we get back down into the basement. We're going to be using these straw bales, and spreading some grass seed real quick before we go down there, because we just looked at the forecast. It changed, and we are supposed to get rain for the next few days. So it's time for us to go ahead and do the grass seed on this portion of the yard, the new yard area, so that we can have wonderful places for our little doggies to run and fetch. All right, diversion job is done. Now to the basement. Right, John is putting some temporary structural screws. Yeah, and what we're doing with these, we're going to be removing them after, but we're trying to make a sort of hammock for our beam. So that when we put our beam up that John made earlier, we can kind of rest it up there and get it in position so that we'll know kind of where to put our posts and everything, and where to dig our hole. If you look at the ground down here in the light, it's very uneven. He had a hard time just placing that stool. You can see his feet. So we've got to level it out a little bit more, as well as put the rocks and pier in place. So to do that, we need to know where to put the beams in relation to what we're trying to support. And our beam will span the distance from this floor joist all the way over to where John is at that floor joist. So he's going to be working on that. And then I'm going to be over here making a plumb bob out of a rock and some twine so that we can dangle this rock as a weight from the beam to show about where we need to start our post dig. All right, there's the beam. We got it up in place exactly where we wanted it. It's 8 feet per our instructions from professionals, and it should span correctly for what we want. And then our job is to put a post under this joist and this joist. And to find the proper positioning on the floor where to dig, we're going to use this rock tied to a cord or a rope, making it a plumb bob like I was telling you earlier. We're going to tie this up to that beam and let it dangle, because gravity makes it dangle straight below, and then we will know where to dig on the floor. And then the floor in this section of the basement is dirt. I'll try to illustrate the grade a little bit. You can see the side over on the left of your screen is probably about 8 inches higher at the peak, and there's an old, next to that piece of wood, there's an old slab from an old heat system that we will be avoiding. It's pretty crumbly anyway, but our post should be kind of in this area. And then we want to make this post set level with this post set. And remember, we have 8 foot 4 inches at the maximum at this stage. So that's where we want to try to keep that distance under 8 foot 4 inches. So we're not going to go super duper below grade. We're going to go to firm place, pack with gravel, and then move our piers into position. So you'll see that in fast motion. So here it is. We have one hole set to the depth we want it, and I've put a bag and a half of the packable gravel in it, and it's packed there. It's below surface, I think 7 inches on one side, so that's good. The pier is 6 inches thick. We'll be excavating this part of the basement later a little more. We have to still dig out our interior sewer line at this point once they finish the foundation work, and then at that point we'll be removing dirt and putting vapor barrier and gravel all over the whole area. So these will be kind of our the measurement of where we want our finished floor to be. The finished floor will probably be just below the level of piers. So John's working on the other hole. You can see how the plumb bob works in action. It just bobs around right under where we want to put the post. Don't you love gravity? And then because we are traveling, we only have our travel level with us. We're gonna try to make these pretty level. It's not hugely important that they're level with each other because the posts are adjustable, but we'd like them to be fairly level. Our level is too small to reach between them, so you're gonna see us using a board across them with the level on it. That's the magic way to extend the level length. It's a pretty good trick. So you'll see us doing that, and then we're gonna roll these in just a second. You'll see me rolling that over into the hole. There are the piers placed. John's opening the posts now. He's going to be putting together what comes in the box. There's different brands of these at your local hardware store, I'm sure. But again, this is what we got here. And it comes with all these pieces, and you slide one pole into the other like this, and he's holding it. And it has these holes across. You can put little adjuster rods to stop it at a certain depth. And then they have a plate on the bottom and a plate on the top where it's going to reach up to the beam, and that way it has like a larger surface to do that. So what you can attach, they have holes in the little plate, so you can actually attach it permanently if you'd like. We're not going to do that quite yet here because of other foundation adjustments and etc., but you can attach them. They can stay in place, you know, going forward. So you put the little pin about where you think it's going to be the closest. See where we are from the post here. And then you can adjust it further and more precisely by turning this screw. That's going to look a little bit, actually exactly like this when said and done. So that's how you adjust it precisely. So when we put these in here, you can see that our post is actually dangling a bit. We may actually end up moving this pin up once we get the screw pin started in there. What we're doing here, in case you've never done this is not where we're trying to move the floor back up into a level position. The floor is happy where it is. The kitchen is happy being saggy, all that stuff. We're going to leave it saggy, but we're going to just give it extra support. Because if you start jacking it up, which this post could do, it could move your floor up if you wanted it to, but you don't want it to, because then it can start cracking things like all the plaster. It can start causing some major damage in the house that has happily settled into that position over many, many years. So you're going to see us putting these posts in, and that is the process that we're doing. All right, there you have it. So we're able to check plumb. I think you could see that on the video on the posts, and make sure that they are plumb and level and correctly spaced. You can see the difference in grade if you look closely at the screw depth at the top here and here. This one's longer than that one, and that's the adjustment that we made because we wanted to make the floor, you know, solid. So it'll probably settle some more with the gravel underneath. We've packed it, but what we're going to do now is over the next several days, we're going to be watching this, as the basement is pretty warm now. It's mostly thawed, but there still may be some adjustments, especially with the new packed gravel. We'll come down every day, make sure these are still tight and plumb and in place. They are making contact on all of these four and not quite on the end over here, which is fine. We made the beam a little longer than we needed to. We needed a 4-foot span here, which is what we've got. So that's what we've got. That's what we did. That is that project. And probably in the future, once our basement wall has been corrected over here, we'll be going back and adding more floor joists in between all of these. These are the 24-inch on center. It'd be nice if they were 12. It would not, again, it's not to put the floor upstairs to level. It's just to add the support that it needs to stay in its current position. So you're always going to be able to sit in that kitchen floor and roll a ball to yourself. And that's okay. It's an old house. That's what we're fine with that. We just want it to be sturdy going forward. So that's that. We're going to go have some lunch and then see what else is happening today. Okay, we've had our lunch and the most unexpected, wonderful thing happened. You can see part of it here. You never know what a day will bring you here in this wonderful community. I have been saying we've been working on the kitchen and dining room, and my whole goal this summer was to obviously do the structural things that we need to do, but also to set up a functional space. And then we have a neighbor nearby they are clearing out their family home to ready for sale after the passing of one of their family members. And they offered all of these things to us, which is amazing. I'm not going to take time to go through all of them because it's so much. But I mean, look, this is a bean pot. This is an old bean pot. Clay. Oh, it's wonderful. Wonderful. A whole set of these little dishes. Oh my goodness. I'm overwhelmed with excitement. We have a whole set of glasses, actually 2 sets here. Some neat Pyrex stuff in here. I'm so excited. I even shared some with another neighbor across the street who gets equally excited about all of these things. There's a cake taker. That means I get to make cake. Come on. So many cool things, but I'll show you the best part in the other room in just a second. More of the fantastic little treasures that they brought over for us to keep in the house. Oh, I'm so excited. So we definitely are on a push to get cabinetry ready and have a place to store all these beautiful little treasures. And the biggest thing is this. They gave me pictures of our house. Well, one picture of our house. One of the previous residents, this picture says June 1909. And one of our previous residents was a lawyer who was an avid photographer. And this is the house. So we knew that it was white with green, dark green trim at some point. So that's what this shows. This is our porch area that's since been closed in. And it's the open way now, but everything's there. The exact porch railing, the posts, everything is there, looking spiffy and wonderful. So exciting. What a treasure this is. I told you, it has been so fun to see people coming by. This is the gentleman that we believe was the attorney and photographer with his family. This is the same car with the top on it as this one, 1909. This one says August 10th, 1909. And then this is the same family again in the car. It's so exciting. I just love it so much. We've been having people come by, like I said, just stop in the driveway and tell us they know things about the history or their relatives of this family or that family that lived here. And people are starting to bring us things. They're so excited, just like we are. I am so excited. I'm so happy with these amazing treasures. And we're going to find the perfect place for them as the house gets cleaner and cleaner and better. So we're working on that. I appreciate you guys joining us for the latest update. I hope you enjoy those treasures as much as I do. I am crazy excited about them. Soon they will be living in the kitchen. I'm so happy about that. I hope you enjoyed the update. I hope you plan to join us back here next week to see what's happening. I mean, you never know, right? You just never know. And we'll see you back next Thursday morning at the Up North House.